As more and more Sun Devils continue to enter the transfer portal, is this for the best? Let's go ahead and talk about it on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
Are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thank you guys, as always, for making us your first listen of the day. Remember, you can get this podcast free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. If you want to see us on a visual platform, wherever you're getting those podcasts, though, make sure you hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. Stay in touch with that content by following me on Twitter. You can get me at Richie Brads36. You can get the podcast while there as well at LO_Sun Devils. Before we get started, this episode of Locked On Sun Devils is brought to you by Sling TV. Don't miss this Sunday's matchup between the Arizona State Sun Devils and the San Diego, whatever their team is, right here on Sling. Sling, the TV you love for a price you'll love. Try it today. That's going to really bug me. The Toreros? I have no idea. I don't know enough about San Diego, University of San Diego, so my apologies, but make sure that you check it out. Let's go ahead and talk some Arizona State Sun Devils football, though, and got to update you guys on the transfer portal. Not too many have entered since we last touched on it last week, but Emory Jones has officially entered the transfer portal. And yesterday, defensive lineman BJ Green, who is the Sun Devils sack leader in back-to-back seasons, has also entered the transfer portal. That is probably the biggest blow the team has been dealt so far. There are now 16 players from last year's team, the 2022 edition, that have entered the transfer portal. Two of them have found new homes. Ladarius Henderson, offensive lineman, has landed in Michigan, and punter Eddie Jablitsky, who was just the first team all Pac-12 punter, is at USC. Excuse me. Very unfortunate that you would not only lose Jablitsky to the transfer portal, but that he would stay in conference and go to USC. But, happy for him and the opportunity that he's going to be getting with the Trojans. So you now have lost 16 players. I don't want to read every single name, but you've lost two quarterbacks. You've lost a couple of offensive weapons, a couple of offensive linemen, almost your entire defensive line, and then a few other players on special teams and the Markham brothers in the secondary. That's a lot of replacing to do. Not only that, but you're also going to be dealing with ex-Valade going to the NFL. You're going to be dealing with the loss of a few other offensive linemen, including Des Holmes and Chris Martinez. So you're basically going to be replacing all but your starting left tackle, Isaiah Glass, for the offensive line. The defensive line is just decimated. You have lost Joe Moore, Anthony Cooper, Omar Norman-Lott, and BJ Green to the transfer portal alone. From a loss of eligibility, you also lose Trevez Moore, Nesta Jade Silvera, and TJ Pesafea. That is 7 defensive linemen. Arizona State typically starts 4. So you've lost your top, your starting and your backup depth on the defensive line. Robbie Harrison will be back. He is a redshirt freshman after redshirting this year. Cullen Fight, who had previously decommitted from the Sun Devils, decided to recommit. So he will be back as well. That's about where the familiarity ends for Arizona State. Tristan Monday, a former Arizona high school standout, is transferring from Wisconsin to come back and play here. Tate Romney also played high school ball at Chandler, I believe, is transferring from BYU. Those guys will help the defensive line out a little bit, but this is going to be basically uncharted territory for the defensive line. The secondary, you lost the Markham brothers midseason, so you already are working on moving on without them. Jace Feely, kicker and punter for you. he barely got any time on the field this year because Carter Brown was a standout. Jablitsky is going to be difficult to replace, and then the long snappers, John Furlman and Gage King, are gone, but you have already replaced them through the transfer portal with Slade Zellers. And now updating you on the guys who have come in. Since we last talked, there have been 2 more additions in the forms of wide receiver Jake Smith, who I'm going to talk about here in just a minute, and Tate Romney, who I just mentioned. Tate Romney is an outside linebacker from BYU. I imagine the Sun Devils are going to flex him all over the place. And Jake Smith is a guy I want to talk about. Smith went to Notre Dame Prep and is an incredibly intelligent individual, but also a highly talented kid who has just had a little bit of an injury history in his college career so far. Jake Smith initially played with USC before moving on and going to Texas, where he spent the last couple of years there. During his time at Texas, he has had the talent. He just unfortunately has not been able to stay healthy. He has 568 career yards and 9 touchdowns in 2 years played. He has not played since 2020, though, at least according to ESPN. So if that's not factually correct, then you need to go yell at ESPN. But I believe, yeah, he had transferred to USC this past year and did not get onto the football field. So he is going to be entering his probably redshirt junior season, I believe, since he didn't play this past year. I don't know. Eligibility is really weird when it comes to the portal, but he is coming home. He's, like I said, he went to Notre Dame Prep out in East Valley, and remarkably talented kid. 6 foot tall, 200 pounds, kind of a do-it-all receiver for you. I think that this is a guy who can potentially come in and maybe play outside with you, but I kind of like the idea of making him what we had hoped Cam Johnson could be and what Giovanni Sanders ended up being as kind of a full-time slot receiver for the team. So his addition is a really, really big one for the team. I believe he was a 4-star prospect when he was coming out of high school, but bottom line is this is a hyper talented kid who should be able to be plug and play just as long as he's healthy. But obviously, being healthy is your best ability, and not being on the field definitely hinders your ability to be a consistent playmaker for the team. But if he is healthy and on the field, he's not going to have too much trouble trying to find a spot with Arizona State. Right now, Elijah Badger is the bona fide number 1 receiver. There's no debating it. Giovanni Sanders is the number 2 receiver playing in the slot. And then there's a bit of a competition. You have Chad Johnson Jr., you have Andre Johnson, who as of now is still with the team, and props to him because I would have hopped in the portal and looked for more playing time. Same with Chad Johnson Jr., but they both are staying, and props to them. Like, truly are seeing the bigger picture with the program. But neither here nor there, I suppose. Who else? Brian Thompson is gone. There's going to be some good what's it called? Like camp battles for the wide receiver spot. But Jake Smith, if he's healthy, might be the most talented of the bunch. And that's where I'm most interested to see what he'll be able to do. That's a quick update for you. We're going to go ahead and hop into our first break. When we come back, we're going to go ahead and pick it up where we left off and talk about the losses mainly and whether or not these are losses that Arizona State can overcome. Before we get that far, though, I want to talk to you guys about our friends over at Omaha Steaks. Omaha Steaks have put together a delicious selection of various gift packages to make shopping for the ones you love nice and easy. Go to omahasteaks.com and take advantage of 50% off site-wide. Plus, use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout and get an additional $40 off your order. Visit omahasteaks.com. Take advantage of the 50% site-wide, plus use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout and get that extra $40 off your order. The minimum order will be required. Omaha Steaks are the world's best beef, naturally aged for ultimate Tenderness, juiciness, and flavor. 5 generations of family owned expertise means uncompromising quality that you can trust. Every steak and every entree is flash frozen, vacuum sealed, and ready to share with your family. So, again, Omaha Steaks has everything you need to give a gift that's perfect. Gifts like perfectly aged, tender steaks, juicy burgers, decadent desserts, and classic comfort meals. A gourmet gift from Omaha Steaks is a gift from the heart, a gift they'll remember and they'll remember with every unforgettable bite. Take advantage of 50% off site wide plus $40 off your order when you use the promo code locked on at checkout. When you're shopping, whether you're shopping for your friends, family, colleagues, or yourself, every order is backed by their unconditional money back guarantee. One more time, visit omahasteaks.com. Take advantage of the 50% off site wide, plus use promo code locked on at checkout and get that extra $40 off your order. The minimum order may be required. Also, want to talk to you guys about our friends over at My Solar Nerd. So, guys, if you live in Arizona, it is almost 100% likely that at some point in time, someone has come up to you and offered to sell you solar. While it's a great thought in theory, a lot of these companies that are telling you that they give you free solar are using misleading tactics and end up overcharging. If you've considered solar but something fell off, then you're going to love My Solar Nerd. Their mission is simple: help you get the best solar system to fit your needs. The guys at mysolarnerd.com are local and understand the nuances of going solar in Arizona. They've been doing this for a while and understand that an educated customer is a happy customer. Their no pressure approach will make sure all your questions get answered. They firmly believe if you live in Arizona, switching to solar should mean saving money. Once you're ready, they'll put their industry knowledge to work for you by choosing the best equipment, warranties, and BBB accredited installer. They'll also help you figure out all the credits and incentives you may qualify for, and they'll make sure that your transition to solar is as smooth as possible by managing the entire project for you and keeping you updated along the way. Our listeners will get a $50 Amazon gift card when they book a no commitment evaluation. This promotion is only for our listeners that are homeowners. Visit mysolarnerd.com and select Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us section. Make the switch to solar on your terms. Start your research process by visiting mysolarnerd.com and show Locked On some love by letting them know we sent you. Folks, going solar doesn't need to be complicated. My Solar Nerd makes it easy. By the way, guys, if you have not checked out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, I cannot recommend it enough. Make it your second listen of the day, from the games that matter most to the biggest stories in sports. Go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you're getting your podcasts. Let's hop back into our conversation. I want to look at these losses, particularly the defensive line. This is going to be incredibly difficult to overcome. Arizona State wasn't necessarily a team that was generating a lot of pressure to begin with last year. And now you are replacing basically the whole thing. And there's not a lot on the roster at the moment that Arizona State has to replace it with. I'm going to pull up the roster right now, but I'm telling you that basically what we talked about is what is left for the team. It's going to be a very different looking defense. Now, the good news is there is a lot of time between now and the end of August, beginning of September, when we kick off, to worry about what this defensive line is going to look like. It's just going to be very, very different. And that is nerve wracking when you have to replace as much on the defensive line as Arizona State is going to have to do. For what it's worth, Michael Matus will be back on the defensive line. That's a really, really good get. He missed all of this past season with an ACL tear, and he will be hopefully kind of like that Nesta Jade Silvera role as like the big leader on the defensive line who plays better than maybe anybody else would give him credit for. So he's going to be really, really important. Dylan Hall will be a redshirt senior. Matthew Palomawa, I think I pronounced that wrong. My apologies. Is a redshirt junior as well. Blazin Lano Wong is a redshirt freshman. He will join Robbie Harrison, who's also a redshirt freshman. Jaleel Rivera Harvey will be back. Garen Stansbury will be back. That doesn't feel right. I feel like Garen transferred. I can't remember. Um, that's gonna bug me. I'm gonna have to look that up sometime. But yeah, it's going to be a very, very raw defensive line and certainly a very different look compared to what they had this past year. The biggest thing here is this was not the strength for Arizona State. And you got significantly worse simply because of the unknown factor. Because who knows? Maybe Robbie Harrison and some of the other guys are able to step up and become big time studs and contributors for the team. Maybe Tristan Monday, transferring from Wisconsin, ends up being a full time starter for the team and a big time difference maker. We don't know until we get there. But right now, this is a really weak unit. Probably the weakest on the team, I would say. It is definitely a little bit concerning, but I suppose we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Either way, um, man, it's just going to be difficult to overcome all of that. The defense in general is just going to be very, very different. It's going to be missing the whole defensive line essentially. Kyle Sully and Merlin Robertson are gone from the program. Longtime starters at linebacker for the team. The secondary is also going to be very different. You're losing Tamarcus Davis. You're losing, what's his name? I love him to pieces. Corey Bethley. And we've mentioned them before, the Markham brothers, but they entered midseason. You do have quite a bit of continuity coming back to the secondary as well, though, in contrast to that, because Chris Edmonds will be returning, because Edward Woods will be returning, because Ro Torrance will be returning. So you have some continuity in the secondary, but the front seven is definitely going to need a lot of remaking and getting back to a point where you can feel confident in this defensive or the defensive front seven being one of the strengths of the team. It's not going to be easy. Offensively, I feel like not too much is going to change. Danny Nagata is a tough loss. Cam Johnson's a tough loss. Emory Jones is kind of what we saw coming, though. So it'll be interesting. It's just time will kind of tell. I want to hop into one more break, and when we get back, I'm going to tell you why Arizona State will be able to overcome these losses, and it won't be a back-breaking deal for the team. Before we get that far, though, we need to pause for a moment. Okay, we're paused. Great, because you got to try this. I'm talking about Built Bar's new reimagined flavors. Cookie dough topper, coconut brownie bar, and coconut brownie topper. White chocolate peppermint granola. It's Built's take on a granola bar, so it's more filling, it's insanely tasty, and candy cane brownie puff. Built Puffs are like biting into the universe's most delicious cloud. First of all, for anyone who hasn't tried Built Bars before, they're literally the best tasting protein bars ever built, pun intended. They're revolutionizing nutrition as we know it with 100% real chocolate, 17 grams of protein, and shockingly low sugar and calories at just 130 calories. Sink your teeth into that first bite and it'll change your life forever. I'm not kidding. There will be a time before you tried these Built Bars and the magical, wonderful time afterwards. You're probably wondering which of these new flavors is my favorite, and it's truly an unanswerable question. They're all unbelievable, and they're all so different. You can order a mix box and try all 5 of these flavors for yourself. Built, you got to try this. Get 15% off your order by using the promo code LOCKED15 at built.com. Again, that's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. And one more time, make sure that you guys check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you're getting your podcasts. Here's why Arizona State can overcome these losses, because there's a lot of losses. This was a 3-9 football team in 2022. This was a team with many flaws. This was a team that needed a brand new makeover and a change of direction in more ways than one. And it got that. Herm Edwards is no longer the head coach. We are now in the Kenny Dillingham era. And the first step in the process of the Kenny Dillingham era is going to be remaking this team in his image. Part of making that a reality is subtracting the guys on the team who don't fit. And that's just a big part of this process. So yeah, losing 16 players for the second year in a row is difficult. And if we're being honest, we're probably not done yet. We're probably still going to have some more kids transfer out of the program. I wouldn't be surprised if we got into the 20s. I truly would not. But here's what I'll flip and tell you. I wouldn't be surprised if we got probably close to 15 transfers. And I'm not just talking about Power 5. I'm not just talking about the regular state colleges and whatnot. Look at JUCO. You need to look at junior college kids and bring them in. Arizona State is also going to be doing a lot of recruiting. Because remember, there's been some guys who have decommitted from the program already. The 2023 recruiting class is going to be a lot different than what we originally anticipated because guys are going to decommit from the program, which is what we've seen, but you're also going to get new commits. There's a lot of time between now and then. More than anything, though, Arizona State's going to be doing a lot of addition by subtraction. And what I mean by that is you're going to be losing a lot of players. You already have. You've lost 16 players to the transfer portal and a countless number of other guys, both to the NFL draft and just straight up running out of eligibility. It's just bound to happen. Arizona State is going to be remade in a better situation, though. And that might not mean that 2023 is a successful year. As optimistic as I am about saying I feel like we can get back to that 7-8 wins, we could be right back to a 3-9 football team next year. This is a project. This is a rebuild. This is not retooling. This is not reloading. This is a rebuilding project for Arizona State. Rome wasn't built in a night, is that famous saying, right? Arizona State is not going to magically turn around and become a national contender. Not unless they can go the USC route and start paying guys. And who knows, maybe that is in the future. Because Kenny Dillingham is going to build this team the way that he believes he can win football games. That means you're going to lose some guys. A lot of guys, like you already have, and probably will continue to lose. But you can expect more guys to be coming into the program as well. There's already been 8 guys to transfer into the program in just over a week. There is nothing but time for Arizona State to continue improving on itself. Right now, the biggest weakness on this team is the defensive line. And I'm sure there's some guys out there that can be added, both recruits and transfers, to make this team better. I have faith that Arizona State is going to be a better team for this. Maybe it's not in 2023, but moving forward, once they have the guys in place that they believe they need, they'll be better for it. It's addition by subtraction, bottom line. Remember that as we continue to go through the motions of all the kids that are coming and going from the program. We're going to go ahead and wrap this bad boy up. So, as always, thank you guys for making us your first listen of the day. Remember, you can get this podcast wherever you're getting your podcast, including YouTube, in a visual platform, audio platforms, we're everywhere. Spotify, Odyssey, you name it. iTunes or Apple is what it's called. Amazon, we're on Amazon. Check us out. Hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. Stay in touch with that content by following me on Twitter. You can find me at Richie Bradshaw36, and you can find the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. Until next time, though, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.